All of us remember stories. Stories from our families, stories from our childhood, stories that were told to us about a weekend excursion or event by our friends. It's a media that has been used for generations to build interest, to make a point, and to teach. We have found that using a story is one of the most underutilized ways to increase engagement of learners and participants. And so in this brief presentation, we will share how might training professionals and other professionals use stories and characters to build engagement and interest in their topics. Let's first start with why in the world would anybody want to use a story? Well, most of us in this profession see some typical challenges when we're dealing with presentations and training. Here are some of them that you'll see here. We've got the same audience from year to year with similar topics that are introduced, and it makes it really difficult to keep their attention. We also find that lots of times we have technical and other materials that exist in our organizations, but they weren't really intended for our use in training. We may have audiences who come from different industries and backgrounds, and they don't see themselves as having a whole lot in common. And so how do we address that? And then, most importantly, people don't always remember or retain information that they're introduced to within a training program when they're back on the job. Let's share an example of how one of our clients was able to use a story. The situation is, it's a large global manufacturer of luxury automobiles. They have a very robust curriculum for leadership development that crosses over from people making a transition into leadership all the way up to their most senior leaders in the organization. So we have some of the same challenges that we noticed before. People feel like they've heard the topic before. They come from different technologies within the manufacturing plant. And so we thought we would overcome this by using a story. We placed it futuristic, a spaceship in the year 3006, and it opens with a crew working on the interior of a spaceship 1,000 years from today. And this spaceship has a unique challenge in that they are traveling to a new planet where they are going to make a much-needed delivery of air cells to a human settlement that lives on the planet. Some characters that we introduce, you'll see Nick, Billy, Tyson, and Keisha. All of the characters in this story and in the stories that we create for our clients are specifically there to give people somebody that they can relate to. Gives us examples. We get to pick apart certain behaviors, but we also get to see how when individuals use skills, abilities, or knowledge that they become more successful. How can story be used to help your audience overcome those challenges that we've talked about? It can be used as a thread throughout all of your training media or your presentation media. You can use it, for instance, by putting a non-example or a negative example that can open up a discussion for facilitator-led instruction. You can use it to show positive examples, videos of not so perfect behavior that will help you to close instruction. Training could be culminated in a simulation, and the simulation challenge could be presented within a storyline, and learners are asked to participate in the stories. In our manufacturing example, these are the exact ways that we were able to use story to tie together media over long periods of time and continue to create interest. How could this type of story work for you as you're creating a presentation or a training? Well, the same story presentation can be crafted based on your learners, their demographics, people and characters and situations that they would relate to but aren't so close to that it becomes a distraction to them. You can expand a training timeline, meaning that if this is an audience that you work with from year to year, if you communicate with them regularly, your ability to gain their interest and immediately get them back to a certain place on the timeline can happen. You also can design your training now, but could be delivered over multiple years. Meaning, once your story is set up and you know that you'll be back again with this audience for another communication or another situation, a group meeting, you then can actually design everything in advance. And then implement as that timeline comes to be. So these are just some of the ways that stories could work for you as an organization.